This is Grief and Grit, from heartache to high fives with a dash of sass. The podcast that turns the tables on traditional grief talks with a fresh, sassy spin. Listen in for candid conversations about the messy, awkward, and downright hilarious aspects of dealing with loss. Because sometimes the best way to cope is with a little laughter and a lot of grit.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Having a good day so far.
Yeah.
Just, the usual.
You got
Up
your
and
tea?
down. I got my tea. I'm comfortable.
Perfect. I got my coffee. We're good to go.
We're good to go. Let's do this.
Okay. So, Simonie, this is we did our intro episode, and this is where we are really getting to know who Simonie Levy is. And I'm really excited to learn more about your background. Obviously, I've heard some of these stories, in the last year and a half that we've been besties. But, if you could kind of go back and talk to me about where you're from and how you got here. And I want to know all the things.
I know. So, and you know me, I'm a talker, so I'm ready to share.
I love it. I cannot wait.
So let's start at the very beginning. So as if my accent didn't give me away, I'm from South Africa, which is a little further down south than Atlanta. Grew up in South Africa, and in 1984, in my senior year of high school, actually 85, I met Mark, my husband. So we were high school sweethearts.
Aww.
And we went to each other's proms,
So cute.
which was so cute. And when I look back at my dresses, I'm like, oh my God, how did my mother let me go out looking like I did?
I need to see pictures, please. And maybe we even need to post those.
Well, we'll see about that. But so that's really where my fairy tale, as I always say, that's where my fairy tale started. He was everything that I was looking for. I was 18, he was 18, and we kind of grew up together. We both went to college. I followed the theater and drama track, and he followed the finance and accounting. So two more different people you could never wish to meet. Very theatrical, very dramatic, and your typical accountant. But it worked. It was magical from day one. So fast forward, we both finished university, and then in 1992, we got married and had a beautiful wedding.
So
I'm an only child.
Y'all were together for 8 years?
Yes. We were together for 8 years. Yeah.
Okay.
From senior year. So from senior year of high school.
Okay.
And then we had a beautiful wedding. And in 1996, we welcomed Bianca, our first baby. And of course, I took a little bit of a back seat because she became Mark's whole world. I mean, I remember we brought her home from the nursing home and he wouldn't let anyone touch her or be with her. And this was his baby and his baby only.
So that was their daughters.
Yes, very much so. And then in 1998, we welcomed Saul, our son. So that was very exciting. And of course, our lives felt so complete. But unfortunately, in South Africa, there was a lot of political unrest and a lot of insecurity. And we weren't sure that, our kids would have a safe future there. So as much as it pained us, we left South Africa in 2000 and we came to America. And just a note, I'll never forget. So we came straight to Atlanta.
Okay.
We had family here, big South African community in Atlanta. So it was all good. So we landed on the 31st of October. Now, remember that in South Africa, we don't do Halloween. So, and prior to us moving, Mark had come to Atlanta and I had said to him, I trusted him with everything. You go, if you like it, I'll trust you and we'll move. So I didn't know this place that he was bringing me to. And I remember we were driving from the airport and we had landed with 2 children, about 15 suitcases, packed up our lives.
Oh my gosh.
And we're driving and I'm looking down the streets and I'm seeing skeletons and things hanging from trees. And I'm like, where in the world have you brought me? Like, where are we?
Hello, culture shock.
I know, right?
Literally.
I know. So that was like, oh my gosh, like, where are we?
Oh my
So that was that. So we came and everything was wonderful. We had a wonderful community that we came to. I fell in love with America from the minute I landed. I knew this was my home. And then in 2003, we welcomed twin girls, Ariella and Hannah. And we were now a beautiful family of 6. And at that time, I was working in a school. I was a performing arts director.
Okay.
So I would do shows with kids and, it was wonderful.
And we're in your office right now. And I love seeing the posters from all of the shows that you've done over the years.
Yeah. And I so often look at these posters and I look at the kids who have signed their names. And a lot of those kids are married today with kids of their own. So I'm a little old, but that's okay. That's
all
okay.
Good. It's good to be old. Yes.
All good. Anyway, in 2005, Mark was given a opportunity to move to New York with the company that he was with. And it was honestly an opportunity that we couldn't pass up. And very reluctantly and kicking and screaming, we packed up our lives in Atlanta and we moved to New York. And New York was a bit of a culture shock.
Another one.
It's, it's like immigrating all over again, coming from the South where it was easy and warm and the weather, and suddenly we get to New York and it's like, oh my goodness, what is this? But of course, being in the theater world my whole life, I quickly fell in love with New York. I fell in love with Manhattan. I could go to a Broadway show whenever I wanted. And we had a great, wonderful community in New York. We really found our people, we found our life, the kids were happy, and everything was good. And so the fairy tale continued. But as you know, there's always a twist to a fairy tale, always. And life was great until November 2007. So at that time, the twins were 3. Bianca was 12 and Saul was 9. And Mark hadn't been feeling well for a while and just not getting better. We thought he had a cold at first, then he was diagnosed with bronchitis. And finally, one doctor did blood tests and we got the call to say he had leukemia. And I remember at the time when we were told of the diagnosis, it was Thanksgiving 2007. And we were living in New York amongst a very cosmopolitan group of friends. We had friends from Chile. We had friends from Argentina. We had friends from all over. And actually that Thanksgiving day, I was having them all over for Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness.
So I'd ordered the decorations, my table was done, and he was diagnosed that morning. And that, of course, turned our lives upside down for 8 months. He was in the hospital because I don't know if you know, with leukemia, you're so immune compromised that he couldn't come home. He couldn't be exposed to any germs. My twins never remember him living at home. So that was in 2000. So November 2007, he was diagnosed and he passed away July 2008. So it was a short time. It was 8 months of really, we gave it everything.
Yeah.
We tried everything. We gave it everything,
Of course.
I have a very resilient nature, and I was fighting it. But unfortunately, on the 20th of July, 2008, he passed away. And so I was left with as you know better than anyone, I was left with 4 young children. I was left with a daughter in middle school, which, as we know, is not the easiest years, a son who was 9, and my twins were 4.
Wow.
And I remember that December, I was shoveling snow on the driveway.
Because you didn't have enough going on.
Yeah, and New York weather.
Right.
And I walked into the house, and my mom had come from South Africa, and she was living with me.
Okay.
And she still does to this day, thank goodness. And I walked into the house and I said to her, I didn't choose to be a widow at 40, but well, here I am. But I can choose not to shovel snow in the winter. And this is not how I'm going to live my life. We're going back to Atlanta. And so I waited for the kids to finish that school year.
Okay.
And I came back in 2009 back to Atlanta.
Okay.
And, we're going on for 16 years. So it's been a long time. But, and that's what I feel about grief, is that it sort of ebbs and flows. There are times where it'll suddenly hit me that Mark's not here.
Right.
And we've had, of course, a lot of milestones in those years, as you know. The girls graduated pre-K without him here. Then it was kindergarten, and now they're in juniors in college. And we've had wonderful, wonderful times. And then last year we had the best. Bianca got married.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And that was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking when he first passed away, my thought was, if I can just get the kids to 18, then I'll be okay. Well, that doesn't work in the world. In the world of grief and loss, it doesn't matter if they're 18 or 20 or 50. It's the same. The issues, the missing out gets bigger. And her wedding day was a very apparent absence.
Of course.
Her brother walked her down the aisle, which was beautiful.
Right, but not dad.
Right.
And
dad wasn't there. And, she got married under a chuppah, which is a canopy, which she got married under we have what's called a talus.
Right.
And
in Judaism, right?
In Judaism, the men wear, it's like a shawl. And she got married under that. So it was beautiful. And, it was like he was there. Right. He was above them, but that was a beautiful thing. And I think through the journey, it was, okay, I have to create a life. Right. I've been left with 4 children whose lives are in my hands. And what am I going to do? They can't lose both parents.
Right.
And one thing that struck me after Mark passed away, I woke up one morning and I had this thought, and it stayed with me forever. I woke up and I thought to myself, Mark chose to live his life with me. He didn't choose to share his death with me. And I'm still alive and I have to live. And that kind of has always stayed with me. And of course, there are many moments, that I, of course, miss him and long for him. And as I said in our introduction, that it's hopes and dreams that we lose as well.
Yeah, so many.
I mean, they're just so many. He wasn't at her wedding. He wasn't at graduations. I mean, he missed everything. Everything. So that that's been hard. And for me now, from being such a full home always and being the home, the anchor for my children, and luckily, and I'm so grateful, the home where everybody else wanted to come, all their friends, and we've always been a very open home. Suddenly, it's not so nice because I have now entered empty nest syndrome. My girls have gone off to college, and Bianca lives in Dallas, Texas. She's living there with her husband, Ryan. Saul lives in Manhattan, living his life there. And the girls are at their respective, universities. So there's often nights where I'm like, oh gosh, I really didn't sign up for this.
Right. It's lonely. It's isolating.
It is isolating and it's lonely. And but anyway, we work through those moments, and I used to, and I think this is so important, especially for people listening. We kind of, in the beginning of any kind of loss or griefs that we're going through, we create a lot of distractions.
Yes.
Like we want to be distracted all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think that I did that so much because my kids were so young. They were my distraction. And I had to get out of bed every morning, and I had to, look after them and guide. I mean, I had to, as the same as you.
Right. And in many ways, it's not even a choice when you have the little kids. Like, it is the distraction, period.
Period.
Yeah. Like, there's no room for anything else.
Exactly. So what I'm finding now is that because I don't have those distractions, I'm kind of the grief maybe that I suppressed and that I've kept, way, way down for so long.
Right.
I feel like a lot of that might be coming up.
Okay.
And that's okay. I think it needs to.
Right. And you're also approaching the anniversary.
Yes. So that's always a hard one. I am.
But that makes sense. I mean, just the quiet and the emptiness, and
you're always responsible for your children.
Right.
But I don't have that same kind of responsibility anymore.
Right.
They're independent, they're grown, they've flown. And so it's now time to reflect on me. And what I did also in all of this, I retired from teaching.
That's right. It's been a big few years.
My whole life, that's all I've ever known.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm at a good point in my life because I'm kind of reinventing. I'm sitting back. I'm like, what's going to work for just me? I don't have to do things anymore that are going to work for my children.
Right.
It's me now.
Right. I mean, I feel like I'm going through that identity crisis right now. It's like, who am I? We were a we, and now I'm a me. And, so it feels like the identity crisis just kind of keeps coming. Is that what you're telling me? At different stages. Oh,
It's like, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. So yes, I'm at an interesting point in my life. Like what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? But for now, I'm really just sitting with it because for the first time since Bianca was born, really, and she's 28 now, I've never had this kind of, I wake up in the morning and I have a day to decide what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so and I do love working, so I am going to look for the right thing to do. But there's definitely light at the end of a very dark tunnel. Yeah. So for everyone listening,
I need to hear that.
I'm 16 years down the line, and I think that we've come through, and not to say there won't be more dark times, as I say, it's an ebb and flow of grief.
Sure.
But I feel like, okay, we can do this. We've done it.
Yeah.
And we can keep doing it. And it's built My kids are resilient, they're strong, they're compassionate human beings.
They are.
They're kind,
They're amazing.
it's and I think that, unfortunately, my take on it is that you have to go through things in order to grow as a person.
Mhm.
Unfortunately,
Right.
life cannot be just static.
Right.
And I think the important thing is to take from that and learn from it and grow from it.
Right.
I remember thinking, we've all asked why. Why did it happen? Well, there's no answer to why it happened.
Right.
We'll never know that
I
answer.
agree. Yeah.
But it's like, okay, what can I do with what's happened? Am I just going to sit and let it just never come out of it?
Right.
Or am I going to do something? And I think that was a large part of me, was also starting the podcast is, okay, there's going to be meaning and there's going to be a reason, and it's not all going to be in vain.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because one thing that you said, it made me think of resiliency. And, it's obviously an experience like this. I mean,
sure,
you come out of it pretty resilient at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to be called resilient. No, we don't want to have to be in the position
100%.
where we have to be resilient.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that somewhere and I was like, oh my God, it's so true.
That's so true.
But you're right. I mean, growing, we all grow from this in ways that I never could even fathom.
Yeah.
When it happened.
Yeah. And I honestly, from bare basics, like financials, I had no idea, no clue. Mark was a finance person, I was a drama person. So that was not part of my world. And then suddenly being thrust into this new world, I had to learn very quickly and make big decisions. So, yeah. So, I think that's such a good point. We don't want to be resilient, but it's great if you land up being resilient.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say, I watch you as a mom. I hear you on phone calls as a mom. And I just, you are it's like mom goals for me.
Aww.
I mean, just the relationship that you have with all of your kids is beautiful. I mean, their love for you and their respect and just their own successes. I mean, that took a strong, brave, incredible mama behind them.
Oh, well, you're so sweet.
And I
Thank you. And you're going to have
so much admiration for you. So, I'm grateful that you're here to hold my hand along the way.
You've got a long way to go, but you're going to get there. And you're the same, Mom. You're the same. You're giving your children exactly what they need. And and I'm grateful for the way my kids have turned out. They're great humans. And I don't take that. I don't take that for granted. So
you've done awesome, Mama.
Oh, thank you.
You've done it. Yeah.
So for all of you out there listening, just to tell you that you get through it and you can thrive. You survive and you thrive. And it's choices that we make. And some days those choices are not easy, and that's okay.
Right.
I always say it's okay to have a crappy day or a crappy week or months. Don't fight it, but just know that it's important to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Don't let the tide take you back.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with me. I learned some new things today, so thank you. And I love the fairy tale. It's just so beautiful. Yeah. And I'm kind of serious about the pictures in the prom dress. I'm just saying.
I'll have to look for them somewhere. One was pink and one was red.
I love it.
Well, thank you, Priya.
Thank you.
Okay. And for everyone listening, have a great day. We'll see you. We'll speak to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening. If you love what you heard, please follow Grief and Grit and share our podcast with your friends and family.